And it is another episode of Record Live. We're all very excited to be here, aren't we, Ashley?
Oh, yep, we are.
This was the last minute call up. Sorry, Ashley, we had to do this, but it's going to be a great conversation today. We have coming up an interview, an exclusive interview, I would say, from the General Conference session with the Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea. So that's going to happen later in the program. But first, Ashley, you've been traveling. You've been helping out at the Northern Australia Big Camp, and I'd love to hear how that went.
It was actually really good. I was writing a daily newsletter. Every day I would wander around camp and pick up stories from either events or people, and then write up a little newsletter, and it would be released the next day. And yeah, it was a really good camp. I met a lot of really cool people, and yeah, it was really exciting to be part of that.
Sounds
Also,
like a lot of
Jarrod,
fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. You're also somewhere. Where are you?
I am in St. Louis for the General Conference session, and it's full on. Long days. Yeah, it's awesome. It's crazy.
What is it exactly that you're doing there?
So I am writing for Adventist Review, which is, let's just put it this way. The Seventh-day Adventist Church is younger than the Adventist Review.
It's pretty crazy.
The magazine was something that the church started right at its inception because they wanted to spread the word about what they were learning and what they were discovering in the Bible. So they started the Adventist Review, and it's been going ever since. And so Adventist Review at the daily conference, at the General Conference session, they put out a daily bulletin. Excuse me, I got through it in the end. So they put out a daily bulletin, and they need a whole team. Basically, the whole team's here: the designers, the managers, the editors, some writers like myself. I'm helping with the writing side of things. It's full on. There's deadlines every day, but we're getting through it, and it looks really good. Actually, I've got some copies. Here's a copy of, I think, the issue that came out today.
How long is it?
This one.
How many stories in each one?
This is 56 pages.
Wow.
Today's bulletin. The bulletin that came out on Sunday announcing the new, spoiler alert, the new church president. I'm sure everyone's heard by now. This one is 60 pages. So this one has a list in the back of all the delegates that were attending the session by different. This is the list of the nominating committee. Everyone who was on the nomcom, as they call it, is listed in the back of this magazine. So Review, much like Record, is it has a historic purpose. It records things at session, so that, years down the track, we can know who was there, who did what, who voted. Yeah, it's very cool. So it keeps us busy. Thankfully, the team here has done a lot of pre-preparation work, so some of the features and some of the lists and stuff they can just get and drop in. But the main things that has to happen is the daily news updates. So that's what we're mostly involved in.
Yeah, so does that involve just going to a lot of the events to cover them? Get the stories and photos?
Attending events in this room here, the war room, we call it. We've got a couple of screens so we can follow along even when we're trying to write up other stories.
That's useful.
This morning I went down to the dome, which is it's not far outside this hallway. You just go down and you're in the dome. And I watched as the mayor of St. Louis was attending and wrote up a story about that. That was my story assignment today. So I'm writing one or two stories. Today was 2 stories that I wrote. The other story I wrote was people's first impressions. I found a bunch of folks from right around the world who have never been to a general conference session before, and so I asked them, what's it like? What's your impression?
What did they say? What were some of the impressions?
people were impressed. They enjoyed the Sabbath program. I did ask them specifically about that because we've had the first Sabbath here in St. Louis already. One young man said something very interesting. He's a youth. He's a 16-year-old who's helping with some of the food services. He's an Adventist from Europe, and he's come here, I think, with his family. There might be a delegate or something that's one of his parents, but he's been volunteering in the food hall. And he said he was very impressed by the transition, the humility that Ted Wilson showed in saying nice things about his replacement president. If you've missed the news and this is the first time you're hearing about it, Ted Wilson was not re-elected. Eraton Kola, who was the secretary, has been appointed to the presidency. So he did the Sabbath sermon. But yeah, just in the transition, they both were very gracious to each other. And yeah, this young man, to him, that really stood out to him, that the leadership was promoting or pointing towards some kind of unity, and that it wasn't like a hostile takeover. Oh no, someone's in competition with each other, someone's stolen my job, and now, perhaps how the world would see it. So it was interesting to hear that young man's perspective, because it's like, that's an interesting take on it. That's how he perceives what has happened here. And it's given him, I guess, a greater appreciation for the world church. A number of people said, because I asked them the question, what will you take away from here? And there were probably two themes. Mission, they felt like, yeah, we're being inspired while we're here. Seeing the reports and hearing the sermons and devotionals and stuff. And the other thing they were going to take away was a newfound appreciation for just how broad and how diverse and how yet still together our church is across the world. It's really exciting to see the colorful traditional dress costumes of the different delegates, and the singing groups, the music, a lot of those things that add a lot of color to the occasion.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's inspiring, I guess, that young people are involved. Like 16 years old and volunteering there. That's really cool. I heard that SPD has a booth. What's that like? Have you stopped by?
The SPD, I did stop by briefly. I haven't tested any. Apparently, Sanitarium has some delicious goodies. One of my mates was saying he tried something they've got down there. It's vegan, some kind of vegan cream cheese spread thing, and he said it was amazing. And I don't know if it's available in Australia yet. I think it's one of their international partners, but I think they're also giving out Fruity Bix, or Wheat Bix Bites, or whatever they're called now, Wheat Bix and milk. So people love that about the South Pacific booth. They like the food, but our own team in the office there designed a lot of that booth, and it does the frames with all the amazing photos. Many of them have been in record at different times over the years, but just showcasing the diversity of our division. I really like, the way it has come together. It's crazy.
Amazing.
Ashley, the exhibition hall is crazy. It opened on Sabbath at, I think it was supposed to be at 5, but it ended up being at 6. And there were lines. You see those Black Friday sales where there's like people lined up trying to get in the doors. I got given a exhibitor pass, even though I'm not really on the booths much, but I have an all access pass as well. And they almost didn't let me in, but I got in there, and that was before the crowds, so I could find my way to the booth and sort it out. But literally, once they opened those doors, there were people running because they had been there on Thursday or Friday and they had missed out. Like, they only give out a certain amount per day. They're trying to ration things. There's giveaways, there's pins, there's t-shirts, there's all sorts of things. People were running past our booth to try and get somewhere. I don't know where they were headed, but people were so excited to get into there. But it was Saturday night was madness. So I haven't really done all the booths because it was crazy. I just said on my Facebook, hey, if you're around, come and see me at the Adventist Review booth, because it's a location that people can find, and I can't find some people in these crowds that want to catch up with me. So I just said, hey, come and find me. This is where I'll be. It's very, it's chaotic, a little bit chaotic, but it's fun.
Yeah, fair enough. So how many Adventists do you reckon are in St. Louis right now?
Oh, there's thousands. There's a lot. So the delegates are about 2,700, I think, in total. But many of them have brought spouses and children even. There are a lot of exhibitors, so that's another extras. So Sabbath is really the time when you see everyone together, because for a lot of the business meetings, people don't come. And I will say, a lot of the business is a bit tedious. People asking for clarification, standing at the mics. There's a lot of church manual, church policy stuff to wade through, which is important. Don't get me wrong, but it's a lot for the delegates to have to sit through day after day. You know, this thing is 7-10 days long, something like that, and there's a lot of business to get through. So there is a bit of tedious stuff, but a lot of times there'll be no spectators in for those business meetings. People can come. It's an open meeting. People can come and observe. But on the Sabbath, I would say I hear all sorts of different numbers. But the one I think is possibly most accurate, I would say there was maybe 10 to 20,000 people there on Sabbath.
Wow.
Like I've heard 40,000, maybe they were expecting and upwards, but like, again, someone was sort of saying, well, the delegates usually fill out this section, and that's around 2,500. And so if you add that to the back, on the floor, there's about that many seats. So there'd be about 5,000 seats. And then up the sides, there was about that many again, and then about that many again, and a smattering at the back. So yeah, maybe 15,000, 20,000. I don't want to exaggerate too much. Some people have said 40,000, you know, on the first Sabbath, but I don't think there were quite that many there. But most people are in the hall on Sabbath morning for the Sabbath service.
Yeah. Wow. That's a lot of people. You mentioned the delegates. So I've heard some people mention that they're not really sure how the delegates get nominated to go to the GC. Do you want to just touch a little bit on that?
To be honest, I'm not 100% sure either. Some of them are appointed to positions that hold that place. So, for example, people like the president and the secretary of a division are automatically delegates to a meeting like this. Certain heads of institutions get a seat, you know, get a spot, because they're leaders of the church, and they're, you know, selected for that reason. There are other people who are lay people, who are normal pastors in churches that don't hold any administrative roles. And those are usually selected and nominated by different levels of the church. The conference might appoint a couple, or the union or the division executive folks. I had one interview with a guy from Zambia. He was the husband of a delegate. He said that she had been selected because she was the highest selling literature evangelist in the division. So for that region of the world, they felt that her input, her voice was important because she had contributed so much, and she's very passionate about the mission of the church. So she became a delegate to this particular meeting, this particular business session. So yeah, it's it's a complex sort of process, and there's lots of different levels at the church that you can be a representative on. So some people will be on the executive committees of their church or their local conference, the board meetings and different levels, but this is like that, but bigger. This is like that, but imagine there's 10 people from every country in the world. That adds up very quickly if there's 200 odd countries. So there's heaps of people here.
Yeah. What about like SPD representatives over there? I know a lot of people who are over there. How are they contributing to the GC session?
Well, like any other division, we have a set number of representatives depending on the number of the Adventist population that we have in our region. We have about 100, I understand, at this meeting. So 100 delegates have come from the SPD. Now, I've seen heaps more people from the SPD. We've got singing groups that are attending. We've got musicians and singers who are contributing to the musical atmosphere of the group, and a lot of them are self-funded. They have saved up their
Wow.
pennies. Some of them aren't singing or contributing, they just want to be here. So there's a big contingent of Papua New Guineans. They just want to come and experience a general conference session. This may be the only one they go to in their lifetime, and they just want to hear the sermons, worship, enjoy the booths, and learn more about the worldwide church. So that's really exciting. We've had some really strong presentations. We haven't yet had it, when we're recording this, we haven't yet had our SPD report, but each division gives a report. Now, beyond that, though, there have been a number of presentations that have mentioned or featured PNG for Christ in some way. And as I mentioned, we had the special guest coming up in the program. The Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea actually attended the first weekend of this event, and he spoke on Friday night. On Friday night, they did a presentation on global total member involvement, and they featured a little bit of the PNG for Christ stats, some of the info, some of the stories, the testimonies of people who are really involved in that space. And the Prime Minister got up and stood. And not only that, this is what I think has maybe never happened in history. There have been delegates who, or I should say guests who are dignitaries, head of state or MPs or in some government departments or special people, sort of special guests. But the Prime Minister on Friday night sang with his group Footprint Ministry, and he's been singing. I happen to have the inside scoop on this. He's been singing with those guys since Kabiufa high school days. So throwback to his high school. And here's a scoop, Ashley. My grandfather actually taught the Prime Minister at Kabiufa.
That's crazy, really?
Yes, and the Secretary of the Union also there at the same time with the Prime Minister, my grandfather's student. So there's leaders in the country now that, I don't know if they were good or bad in the days of my grandfather. They all say the same thing about him. They say he was very, very strict, but very fair. And they respected him because he laid down the law, but he also explained why they needed to follow the rules, basically. So I've heard the same thing. And if you listen carefully to the interview that we're going to play with the Prime Minister coming up, he reflects on Adventist education. Now, he knows who my grandfather is, and he said to me after the interview, he makes some comments on Adventist education. So listen out for those. But he said, I should have mentioned your grandfather because he's one of the people that contributed to my upbringing, my Adventist education in that space. So I don't know, what should we do? Play the video? Let's have a look.
Yeah, go for it.
Let's have a look at my interview with the Papua New Guinea Prime Minister. And I should say, before we start, thank you so much to Adventist Review for allowing us to use their studios. So here we go.
Hello everyone, we are coming to you from the General Conference session in St. Louis, Missouri in the United States of America. And my name is Jarrod Stakaroth. I am the editor of the Adventist Record and Signs of the Times magazine, and I'm here working with Adventist Review. And we want to thank Adventist Review for giving us this space, this studio, to interview a very special guest this evening. Prime Minister James Marape is the Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea, and he is attending the General Conference session this session. So, Prime Minister, welcome.
Thank you for welcoming me. My pleasure to attend this important session.
Yeah. Now, I understand you've come to the session. You're going to do a report on the total member involvement that's been happening in Papua New Guinea with a delegation of Papua New Guineans. Can you tell me a little bit about the impact that you saw of this PNG for Christ campaign on the country of Papua New Guinea?
Well, I just want to thank everyone who's involved in helping this mission. The PNG for Christ was the biggest ever mobilization of evangelism in Papua New Guinea. We've been independent almost 50 years. We as a mission almost 50 years. And to see a big bang sort of impact that basically embraced 100% of the country. We are people of a country of 11 million people. And to see mobilization of evangelism to impact the entire country. At the end of the campaign, over 260,000 souls were baptized. Equal number were enrolled in ready classes for later baptisms. And even prior to the actual event, there were pre-baptisms that took place. So the biggest ever mobilization of evangelism in Papua New Guinea, and as far as Seventh-day Adventist is concerned. And it was a big plus to the country, set the country on fire for the work of the gospel.
Could you tell us a little bit about the impact on the community? So we know the church got mobilized, but what about the surrounding community? What did this program do for the country?
The country has 100% awareness on the value of the Seventh-day Adventist belief systems. The country has full respect of the church, the exposure of the Sabbath truth and the purity of the gospel like never before. So in as far as Matthew 24 verse 14 is concerned, for Papua New Guinea, there's no excuse now. Everyone is fully aware of the gospel message. But for me as government, I was very happy with the turnout. The conversion of more into the church leaves a less drunkard out in the society, leaves a less abusive person out in society, brings more into the family of Christ, more into a behavior Christ would expect of a citizen to be. So both the government, society, community were very pleased with the turnout. Over 600 evangelists from outside who also came in, they would have felt the impact of being able to minister to the most linguistically diverse nation on earth.
And I had heard from some of our leaders, even certain cities like the crime rates dropped, and
absolutely.
And the mega health clinic did a lot for the country as well.
The health clinic mobilized people who needed medical attention. The level of crime dropped in areas where the evangelism was running. In fact, the entire country saw almost a drop in the usual criminal activity. So it's a win-win for everyone when the country appreciates the work of the church.
As we enter a new quinquennium or 5-year period strategically, what do you see are some of the challenges facing the church in Papua New Guinea?
Maintaining the momentum. Those who were baptized are maintained in the church. The resource of pastors to be out there in the face of nurturing, maintaining those who baptized. We do also have a rate of backsliding that does happen. And basically maintaining the momentum is something that would be the greater challenges. And we see a lot of flooding into our church-run school institutions and health facilities. And so in that context, maintaining the momentum would be the greater challenge.
Now, you were raised in a Seventh-day Adventist family. Your parents were missionaries in a new work area, and we spent some time at Chiwaka province where you spent some time growing up during PNG for Christ. Can you tell me, you're now the leader of Papua New Guinea. What lessons did you learn from that upbringing, from your parents and from your Adventist background that you think equip you well to lead the country?
Well, the first 18 years of my life was basically contact with homeschool, parental guidance, and church-run schools. And after I left high school, that was it out to the world. But the first 18 years basically gave me the groundings to have the character and fortitude of a character, basically, to be out there to interface with the community. And now in this position, it gives me the ability to remain in total sanity, dealing with all the challenge that comes with running the office. So there is no greater place to learn about love for each other, love for community, love for service, than being in contact with the teachings of Christ. And my parents and the Seventh-day Adventist school system were able to give me this ability.
Amazing. So I understand there would be challenges carrying your faith openly in such an office, such a prominent and a public office. Can you tell us a little bit about what it's like to be very open about your Seventh-day Adventist faith in the office of Prime Minister?
Well, in my entire public life, I've been in public life for 20 years and in the office of Prime Minister for 16 years. I beg your pardon, 6 years. And so the fact that I was consistent from day one makes it easier. It is now part of my lifestyle, part of my identity. And so my advice to anyone out there who in public life, it's you get it out right from the start that this is who you are. And people will get to adapt to your lifestyle. I've had all my meetings scheduled on non-Sabbath hours. The biggest one was when the late Pope Francis came to PNG on September 6th. He was arriving on Friday evening, and his office confessed to me that Pope's arriving on Sabbath hours. And we know it's your Sabbath time, you will not be able to meet him. We would appreciate a step-in arrangement. And so I thought just the fact that I lived a lifestyle of not working on Sabbaths, everyone know I'm a Seventh-day Adventist, the reputation and the identity just permeates. I don't need to be on a pulpit. The podium is my place to show the world, and so everyone I work with belong to this faith that respects the Christian teaching in its entirety, keeping Sabbath holy, and it is now known in all my contact, whether it's with Chinese leadership, United States leadership, European leadership. I give you another example. President Macron, my good friend, he had to reschedule Saturday meeting to right after 6 o'clock on that Saturday to meet me, and he said, I know it's a Sabbath, so we had to reschedule. So like I said, that's my space, that's my podium.
Yes.
I'm just like Joseph Aramatia.
Yeah.
Doing his play. I may not be out there on the pulpit, but podium is my space.
Live it out consistently.
Correct.
Yeah, amazing. So I'm sure you're a busy man. You've got a lot of world leaders that you're meeting. You've got a lot of things to do back home. What made you take time out of your schedule to come to this general conference session?
36:33, putting God first. Simple as that.
Seek first the kingdom.
Put God first, and everything else will be added. And my country has a lot of challenges also. It's just putting God first gives the perspective and the context. Everything else is God's business.
Amazing. Prime Minister James Marape, thank you so much for spending this time with us. And may God bless you in your ministry as you continue to lead Papua New Guinea. And do you have anything else? Sorry?
Not at all. Appreciate this moment of interview. We almost 2,000 years since Christ ascended back to heaven.
Yes.
Jesus is coming soon.
Jesus.
I believe in that 100%. That's why I'm still in the faith.
Jesus is coming soon. Thank you so much, Prime Minister Marape, and thank you for watching.
There we go. It was a busy day for me on Friday, interviewing the president, writing a story about the new president, and interviewing the prime minister. Those were the two things I did on Friday. So it was a very busy day, but yeah.
Yeah, that was really interesting to watch that. Was that his first time at the GC?
I asked him that question, but not on air. He has been before. Before, but not as prime minister. So not while he was a prime minister. Yes.
Yeah. So there aren't very many prime ministers or presidents in the world that are Adventist. There's only a few. Yeah. Do you think he was the only one who was at GC?
I think there have been others before. I spoke earlier in the week with Bill Knott. He's now from Adventist Review. He's now in the Public Affairs and Religious Liberty Department. He was just keeping me aware of if there was any other dignitaries or delegates sort of expected. The Minister of Labour for the Democratic Republic of Congo was anticipating being here, I think, this weekend as well, last weekend. And I know the Fiji president at one point, not the prime minister, but the president of Fiji, I believe, was a Seventh-day Adventist for some time. As in, he is a Seventh-day Adventist, but I don't think he's the president anymore. And I do believe he came to a GC some years ago. So it has happened, but, Prime Minister Marape is heading to a few other travel appointments this week. He's going to meet the king. He's going to meet the king in England
Wow.
And then he's doing some other stuff in the States, Washington, on the way home. And he's coming back here this coming weekend, apparently. So he will be at both Sabbaths of the GC session because, as he said, he wants to put God first as much as he can in his public life. And he doesn't want to miss this big event for Seventh-day Adventists. So he's going to be here
Yeah.
again. And yet, we're here, I guess in some senses, we're all here to meet the King, the King of Heaven. But he's actually meeting a real king this weekend or this week, and then he's coming back to again worship the King of Heaven. So it's kind of there's a nice poetry to that, I think.
Yeah. It's interesting. A lot of people say that Adventists shouldn't get involved in politics at all. Yet
Yes.
we see President Marape here. He's making such a difference. And you can see that he just has a heart for God and he really wants to put God first.
Yeah, he's passionate, and there will be Adventists and even others that don't agree with him politically, in everything. And he will probably be the first to admit he's a human being. He would make mistakes and things, but he's trying his best in his space. And I think that's all we can do. We always get practical here on Record Live, and I wasn't sure how today was going to go, but for me, this is the message I'm getting from this conversation. Like, we do the best we can with what we've got, where we're at, and we can all make an impact in our world. And he did reflect, just in our conversation, it is hard to be an Adventist in politics, but there's people like Daniel, there's people like Joseph, there's kings of Israel who still chose God, to put God first in the Bible. We can follow their example. They, again, weren't perfect men. They did things that weren't 100% right all the time. And I'm sure Prime Minister Marape has that as well. But he's doing his best in the position that he's been given to keep his faith in God going strong. And he is a witness to those in his level of, business. As he said, everyone who makes meetings with him knows he doesn't meet with them on the Sabbath. He's not doing work on the Sabbath. So I think that's pretty cool. And I'm really grateful I got the opportunity to sit down and have a chat with him. Well, it's getting towards 10 o'clock where I am in my time zone right now. So I'm ready for bed. We've run out of time. It's been half an hour. It went very quickly. And thank you, Ashley, for stepping in today as well. Did you enjoy that? I'm sorry.
I did.
Last minute.
I enjoyed learning more about the GC, and that was a really interesting interview. I always knew that President Marape was Adventist, but I've never actually heard him speak. So, I enjoyed it.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure we'll have some more exciting updates. Hey, I don't know if we mentioned it. I think we did mention it. President Glenn Townend was just re-elected as well. So I'm hoping to get an interview with him in the same studio tomorrow or sometime very shortly by the end of the week. So
Amazing.
We will have an interview with Glenn, and we will hear about his dreams, his vision for the South Pacific in the next 5 years, and a little bit more about some of the behind the scenes stuff maybe that's happening at session. So until then,
Amazing.
God bless, and
All
we'll
right.
see you again on Record Live.
Thank you, Jarrod. Have a good
Thanks.
night.
I will go straight to sleep, hopefully. Bye, everyone.